I'll be here so that I can see you all. From that point, it's a bit more difficult. So I would like to start by thanking to all the Ukrainian servicemen that are giving their lives to shield Europe and the free world. I would like to thank the Ukrainian diplomats and politicians who spread the message across the world. Because we should never forget that freedom is not free. And they are now paying the price with their lives, with their culture, with their churches, with their monuments, with their families, and sometimes with their freedom, so that we can all be free. My colleague from the Ukrainian Parliament, Volodymyr, said that Russia is an empire. And in 1983, it was Ronald Reagan that said that Russia is, well, at that moment, the Soviet Union was and still is an empire of evil. And in order for us to understand this and to comprehend this, we need to see what are the roots of this evil. He also said that Russia is suffering from phantom pain. Well, actually, it was Henry Kissinger that said that. And we need to understand the way the Russian people is functioning day by day. We need to understand that Russia is a country, and the Russians are a nation that is always looking to the past and never to the future. They are looking towards their victories in the Second World War. They are looking towards what happened in Crimea, and we let it happen. They are looking towards Alexander I, the Tsar that defeated Napoleon. And you all remember, I think, that when Mr. Macron met Mr. Putin, there was a statue of Alexander I in the same meeting room. And that was a symbol of Russian arrogance. So we need to understand this. We need to understand how Mr. Putin thinks. Because from my point of view, and I think it's not only mine, Putin strongly believed that he is a continuator of the Russian Tsars. He is a huge admirer of Alexander III and of Peter the Great and of Ekaterina the Great. And these are names that are not connected to happy events in the history of all the neighboring countries of Russia. These are names that are related, for example, Alexander III, related to the first so-called intelligence service, but it wasn't an intelligence service, it was a political police, right? I think the name was Okhna. And then they are related to taking the Baltic states and taking influence in the Black Sea region and taking part of Poland. So he believes that he is the continuator of the Tsars. If we look into the way the Russians think, and there are studies saying this, we can see that there are very little Russians that now suffer because they lost communism. That's not the case. But the Russians suffer because they lost their empire. They are very proud. They consider, for example, that the Belarusians and Ukrainians are also Russians, just smaller Russians. They need to be ruled by the bigger Russians, the more important Russians. So, in their arrogance, they never thought that it would be the case to have reconciliation after all the suffering that was brought to the neighboring countries, such as Romania. And I can tell you that my family suffered a lot because of the Russians. My grandfather was in prison. My great-grandfather was in prison. All the three brothers of my grandfather were in prison. All their assets were confiscated. And this was just the case. We had tens of thousands of such cases. That is what Russia means. And they haven't changed. There will be a moment when this war will end. And I have no doubt that if we stick united and if we pass the message along that Russia has not changed, Ukraine will win and Russia will lose. But we do not have the luxury of waiving our vigilance. we need to watch Russia in the future. Because once this happens, it will be just another trauma that is added to the Russian people. Another trauma that is affecting their arrogance. So, for example, the way Russia tries to subminate the free world is so complex that many people don't even dare to comprehend it. And I will give you an example. Intelligence is of the Russian empire of evil is very significant even today. They have very strong intelligence in Austria, for example. And Austria is nowadays trying to block Romania and Bulgaria from joining the Schengen area. For those of you who are not from Europe, Schengen area is a space of free movement without any controls at the borders within the European Union. And you might say that this is not important because, okay, we still have the freedom of movement within Europe. And what's so wrong if we have some controls? Well, the problem is that this strongly affects the supply chains. And now that we have the war after the 24th of February, the supply chains are crucial for the European economy. So that's a very evil way of affecting the whole of Europe. Another example would be that we have information that the initial plan of the Russian Federation was to take Odessa, and after they took Odessa, they wanted to go into the Republic of Moldova, just to see what happens, to poke the free world. Never have the arrogance to believe that Russia would stop in Moldova, in Ukraine, in Romania, or in Poland. And I think it was Mr. Medvedev that said that they would like to go all the way to Portugal, because that's the moral testament that they received from Peter the Great. And this is the way they think. Going back to the way they think, we need to understand the Russian orthodoxy, which is so important. I think it was the weekend after the war broke out, after the Russian Federation invaded Ukraine, when it was Patriarch Kirill that spoke publicly about the evil empire of the Western world, of the free world, about a fight of good, which is Russian orthodoxy, versus evil. We are evil. And we are evil because we do not share their values. And they do not like, they strongly dislike our way of living. They dislike NGOs, for example. And most of the NGOs that were functioning in Russia disappeared after the war broke out. But this is a phenomenon that started happening beginning with 2021 and even earlier. So we need to understand this, to comprehend this, and to realize that this will not be over after this war will be over. Thank you, and again, thank you to entire Ukraine. Oh, and just one more thing, one more minute, yeah. Talking about reconciliation, I need to add this. The countries that are neighbors of Russia really helped a lot Ukraine. And I'm speaking first of all about Romania, because it's my country, and Poland. And this is happening because we understand, and we have the capacity to understand the trauma that other peoples are going through once they are faced with the Russian aggression. And I will just give you some figures. More than 2.5 million Ukrainians went through Romania as refugees. And we have now about 100,000 Ukrainians living in Romania. And we had to, because this was crucial for the whole world, we had to help Ukrainians move their cereals through Romania. And we have a hub in the northern part of the country where humanitarian aid is being brought and sent further to Ukraine. And the Poles help Ukraine a lot. So I'm not arrogant, but please understand that the suffering that we have seen during generations and generations is something that makes us more aware of the evil that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you.